From Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. Today's show looks at authority, who holds it, how it's exercised, and who bears the consequences when systems fail.
We begin with immigration enforcement as ICE activity becomes more visible across Michigan. Local leaders are confronting tough questions.
We'll also hear from someone who's been inside law enforcement about how cooperation with ICE affects trust between police and the communities they serve.
Then, a Detroit-based organization is using the stage to confront the disappearance of Black girls.
And the silence that so often surrounds those cases.
We'll also spend time with the cast of The Piano Lesson. August Wilson's work asks enduring questions
about inheritance, memory, and whose stories get carried forward, power, absence, and the cost of being unseen. This is the Metro.
We begin in town halls across Michigan, where city leaders and police chiefs are asking a question. How should they work with federal immigration officers? ICE has been active across southeast Michigan, including in Livonia, Ypsilanti, Detroit, and other places. ICE detention centers have been proposed in Highland Park and Romulus. We know some of the outcomes. In Michigan, from January to October of last year, ICE arrested over 2,300 people and detained almost the same amount. That's according to the Deportation Data Project. That number nearly tripled from the year prior. Some city council members in Michigan have called for limitations of ICE, and they're supporting state bills to do exactly that. But many Michigan mayors are staying quiet on the issue. That's not the case for Michael Taylor. He's the mayor of Sterling Heights, where nearly 28% of residents are immigrants. He's recently made headlines for wanting his city's police department to separate itself from federal agents. To discuss his remarks and what kinds of ICE policies he thinks Michigan cities should have now, he joins us. Mayor Taylor, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you so much for having me.
So at a recent city council meeting, you expressed a desire for the Sterling Heights Police Department to sever ties with federal authorities and to change traffic stop procedures. Before we get to your own views, what is the city of Sterling Heights and its police department's policy around ICE?
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing, and it remains a little bit confusing to me right now. So there were a number of different general orders that had existed that implicated how the department would interact with Border Patrol or ICE. And what we tried to do after an incident in early January is look at those different policies and see if they need to be consolidated into one clear, concise policy. And so what the result of that is that what we're telling our officers now, or what we should be telling our officers now, is that unless Border Patrol or ICE or DHS has an active warrant for a undocumented immigrant in the city, we are not going to hold that person. We are not going to detain them any longer than is necessary to complete whatever traffic stop they'd been stopped for. So that's essentially the policy. It's kind of confusing to me. It's not clear how it's going to be implemented and worked out. And I guess that's why I continue to have these conversations. I'm continuing to work with our police chief to try to get this clarified and get a better policy in place so that our residents can be protected first and foremost and assured that they're not going to have their rights violated if federal agents do come and operate in Sterling Heights.
Mayor, you're saying some words that are striking me. You're using the word confusing and you're using the word should, which is leading me to believe that you don't have a lot of power in this situation. Is that right?
Well, certainly, I'm a mayor and a council manager form of government, but even a mayor and a strong mayor form of government has very little that they can actually do when it comes to police officers interacting with members of the public. We have in Sterling Heights, I think in a typical year, we have between 50 and 60,000 interactions between police officers and the public, whether it's a police stop, a traffic stop, being called out for service. So obviously there's a lot of discretion that police officers have, even within our general orders. And, we train them the best that we can, and we give them the resources that they need to keep themselves safe and the public safe and to follow our procedures in the Constitution. But things can get chaotic out there. So my hope is that these directives are being passed on to our police officers, and the police officers receive them and understand that we should not be calling ICE and Border Patrol when there's not a warrant for somebody's arrest. But I can't be sure what is or isn't happening.
What are you trying to do to change these policies? I mean, are you trying to convince other city leaders? Are you organizing residents?
Yeah, I would say my focus right now is on working with my colleagues on the city council and working with the city administration and the police leadership. So my number one concern is about the public safety of our residents and visitors to Sterling Heights. And what I see from videos and reports throughout the country is that when federal agents are in cities operating, performing tactical operations to try to find undocumented immigrants, it's putting the entire public at risk of harm. ICE agents are violating human rights, constitutional rights, civil rights. They are running roughshod over cities. They're terrorizing on cities, and they're taking calm, peaceful areas and turning them into what seem like war zones. So I'm trying to protect that from happening. And the easiest way I think we can do that is by pausing any federal partnerships and trying to limit their operations in the city.
Okay, so you want to see a pause. You want to see limits into how ICE can operate in Sterling Heights. What is ICE doing in your city? How many residents have been detained by ICE since last year?
Thankfully, not a lot right now. What I've been told by our police department is that over the last 12 months, on average, we have about one interaction with ICE or Border Patrol per week. So that could include a traffic stop where the driver doesn't have a driver's license, provides a foreign identification. We contact Border Patrol. Border Patrol comes and apprehends the individual. Could be a domestic issue at a house, could be another service call. So we had been averaging for the last 12 months about one per week. And I'm happy to say that since January 9th or 10th, we've had, as far as I'm aware, no interactions with Border Patrol.
And when you talk about those traffic stops, I want to be clear, that is something that you want to change. You want officers to stop contacting Border Patrol when passengers in a traffic stop can't produce ID.
Yeah, so this is my main concern. And here's what it is. When a police officer stops somebody for a routine traffic stop, they're, of course, going to ask the driver for their identification. If you or any of your listeners have been involved in a traffic stop before, you know it's very, very rare that the police officer would ask any of the passengers for an identification during a routine traffic stop.
Right.
And that's what happened here. It was a routine traffic stop, and the officer asked for identification from the passengers of the vehicle. The passengers of the vehicle provided their identification, and it was a foreign identification. And then we contacted Border Patrol, and they were apprehended. So what I'm saying is we don't need to ask for identification from passengers in vehicles when they're not suspected of doing anything wrong. And if we just stop doing that, that would solve a lot of these problems.
I'm wondering, what do Sterling Heights officers and the police chief say about all this?
Yeah, so they say that it's proactive policing. So what they say here is in the incident that caused all of this controversy in Sterling Heights, the driver could not produce a valid driver's license. So the police say, when that happens, we're going to ask all the people in the car for their identification. Now, the passengers were not required to give identification. They could have refused. They have a constitutional right to refuse. And had they refused to provide ID, there's nothing more the police could have done. Since they voluntarily handed over their identifications, our police officers contacted Border Patrol, and Border Patrol came, arrested them, detained them, and at least one of them has already been deported. So what the police officers say is that asking for identification, even when the cops don't have the right to demand it, is good, proactive policing. I say I disagree. I think it's always better to tell the residents or citizens that they have a constitutional right to refuse their ID. So I say to our police, when you go and voluntarily ask somebody for their ID, why don't you tell them that they have the right to refuse? You're providing them information about their constitutional rights.
What have the police said in response to that?
Well, they say, no, we're not going to do that because they won't give us their IDs then.
Mayor, have you ever experienced this kind of friction before between you and the police chief and police officers? I mean, I am gathering that there's some real friction here.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that I think the police chief, Chief Satterfield, and I have a great working relationship still. You know, he and I have continued to collaborate. Other issues have come up, over the past 6 weeks since this really started. We're working proactively and collaboratively to continue to move things forward. We have a disagreement about this issue. I don't think that there's any question about that. I have a disagreement with my colleagues on the city council, but I'm not going to throw away my relationship with them. We have a lot of issues that we need to work on simultaneously, and I'm not going to ruin my relationship with anybody over this one issue, but I'm going to continue to speak out and say what I think is right.
I want to zoom out and look at this moment of heightened immigration enforcement, and it's happening because of a mandate from the Trump administration. I would be remiss not to mention that. I want to play a clip of you recently talking about President Trump.
The current regime does not care about the Constitution. The current regime does not care about the laws. The current head of the regime has said he doesn't care particularly about international law. International law is meaningless to him. He's guided by his own morality, which we know is non-existent. Not only is it non-existent, he's amoral. He has no empathy. He has no kindness. He has no decency. He has no respect for the rule of law. And you see it in the streets of every city where he's deployed his stormtroopers over these past several months.
Okay, a lot of strong words about President Trump. He has no kindness. He has no morality. He is deploying stormtroopers onto the streets. This is all really striking to me, Mayor, because you used to be a Republican. This is a big part of this conversation. Now you're an independent. What do you make of what has happened to the Republican Party because of the actions of the current president?
Well, it's kind of heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see people who were principled and a lot of my friends and family growing up were conservatives. And, I always thought, look, there's two different parties that are both trying to get at the same result. What's going to be best to lift people up out of poverty? What's going to be best to bring more unity to the country, to make the country safer, stronger, to have a healthier economy, to have more people who are prosperous? And now we have a party, the Republican Party, that I don't think cares about that at all. It's all just a cult to worship Donald Trump. That's it. That's all it is.
What is the Republican Party that you believed in that made you a card-carrying member? Yeah,
I believed that for the most part, free markets were the best way to lift lift all ships. That less government regulation was going to be better for poor people. That they're going to have more opportunity to get ahead, and that they're going to be able to thrive and succeed in this country. I've changed a lot of my political views, but and many of them are coinciding with the rise of Trump and the MAGA cult. But this is not a principled party anymore. There are no ideals. There are no. There's not a party of values. This is just a party that is completely subservient to this cult of personality of Donald Trump, and it's amoral. It's cruel. There's no empathy. There's no kindness. There's no decency. It's a disaster, in my opinion.
Mayor, how do we get out of it? How do we get to a place where we have more generosity, more openness, more curiosity, where, as many people are saying, cruelty is not the point? And how do we act with a loving ethic toward one another again?
I don't know. I try. I continue to try to have the conversation with friends, family members, people who are conservative or Republican that support President Trump, and they say, and they because I've received a lot of criticism based on the comments, but I mean, what I try to do is focus on the facts. The fact here remains that we know that these ICE officers don't have the training, they don't have the oversight, they don't have the supervision, they don't have the correct policy operations to continue to do the things that they're doing in our cities. We need to test to make sure that they're getting the training that they need. And we can show that what's happening is chaotic. It's not good. It's not the way that the American public should be treated. And then hopefully more and more people will realize that, this is all coming from the top. This is all coming from President Trump. And if we want to stop it, we need to take power away from him and stop this march towards authoritarianism that unfortunately the Republican Party is just letting happen in front of them.
You sound very mission driven, Mayor, and I wonder if it has anything to do with the demographics in Sterling Heights. I mean, nearly 28% of residents are immigrants. Iraq is the single largest country of origin. Sterling Heights is home to one of the largest Iraqi Chaldean communities in the U.S. Roughly 25% of the city is of Iraqi Chaldean descent. I realize in 2024, the city became a sister city with Ankawa, Iraq, and you presided over that vote. In the last 30 seconds that we have here, how does that play into your stance? And are you hearing things from your residents about fear?
This is America. Sterling Heights is America. Go into our schools and you'll see what America is. It's black, brown, Asian, white children. It's people of all different cultures, ethnicities, backgrounds. The all-American country that I know isn't a whitewashed Super Bowl halftime show on some whitewashed network. It is a diverse, beautiful, multinational, multi-ethnic, multicultural tapestry that makes this country the best country in the world. It's because we're not a homogenous group that gives us our strength. That is what America is. And when we see this administration trying to tear it apart, we need to fight for this country. That's the mission. America First means the multicultural, diverse country that we love and enjoy.
Sterling Heights Mayor Michael Taylor. Mayor Taylor, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. Coming up, Ike McKinnon, who led Detroit police through a period of reform, talks about what today's officers should learn from history when it comes to ICE. That's next. Stay with us here on the Metro.